How does a people survive when their homes are destroyed, their land divided, and their freedom denied? How did generations grow strong, hopeful, and morally steadfast amid decades of hardship? This is Palestine, a nation not just defined by borders, but by faith, family, and the unbreakable spirit of Sumud. In a land where adversity is constant, the Palestinian mindset turns struggle into resilience and hope into a way of life. Join us as we uncover the strength behind their story, a strength the world can learn from. Buried beneath the sand and stone of the Holy Land lies a story older than politics, a story the modern world still struggles to understand. A people whose identity has endured exile, occupation, and fragmentation. A people whose resilience is not born from luxury, but from loss. Who are the Palestinians, and what inner strength allows them to survive, rebuild, and hope generation after generation? The Palestinian story is not written in castles or armies. It is carved into olive trees, echoed in songs sung under curfews, and whispered in classrooms where power sometimes flickers but never dies. It is a story of a mindset, a moral strength that refuses to disappear. While others measure success by wealth or borders, Palestinians measure it by dignity, faith, and memory. In Arabic, there is a word that captures this essence perfectly: Sumud. It means steadfastness, a refusal to surrender. It is not loud or violent. It is quiet endurance, the power to plant an olive tree even when you may never taste its fruit. Sumud is not just an idea, it's a mentality, passed like inheritance from parent to child. For more than 100 years, Palestine has been a land defined by contradiction, beauty and struggle, faith and displacement, loss and love. But while geography can be conquered, mentality cannot. This is not simply the story of politics or tragedy. This is the story of a mindset that turns pain into perseverance and memory into identity. Across refugee camps, crowded cities, and ancient villages, Palestinians live with one foot in history and one in tomorrow. They hold keys to homes that no longer stand, yet they keep those keys shining. They write poetry in exile, teach children beneath occupation, and build futures in uncertainty. Theirs is not the power of empires, but of endurance. When you look closer, you begin to see a deeper pattern. In every generation, under every hardship, Palestinians have found strength not from domination, but from moral conviction, from a belief that justice, compassion, and community are stronger than despair. It's this mindset that built their resilience, not steel or walls, but values and hope. For thousands of years, this land has seen civilizations rise and fall. Canaanites, Romans, Ottomans, British, each left their mark. But somehow the Palestinian identity persisted. Language, culture, and memory survived, sometimes quietly, sometimes defiantly, carried in the hearts of those who refused to forget who they were. Today, in a world where identity is often blurred and morality traded for comfort, the Palestinian mindset stands as a reminder that some values cannot be erased, only tested. Because when a people lose everything but refuse to lose their humanity, what's left is not defeat, it's moral victory. This is not just history, it's a human story of resilience born from faith, of hope built from ashes, of a nation without full freedom that still believes in tomorrow. This is the mindset of Palestine, a quiet fire that has outlasted empires, borders, and time itself. If you believe that understanding this kind of resilience matters, that behind every headline lies a deeper human truth, make sure to like this video, subscribe, and stay with us. Because the further we go into the Palestinian mind, the more we discover about what it means to endure and to be human.
Long before modern borders or flags, before the word Palestine echoed through politics and conflict, this land was a crossroads of civilizations, a place where empires marched and faiths were born. Here, among terraced hills and ancient olive groves, people learned early that survival required more than strength. It required resilience of spirit. The earliest ancestors of today's Palestinians trace back to the Canaanites, whose city-states thrived more than 3,000 years before Christ. Archaeologists still find their pottery, their temples, their inscriptions etched into limestone. These were not conquerors, they were cultivators, shepherds, traders, people who endured by adapting. From Canaanite clay came the first seeds of Palestinian endurance, a heritage not of dominance, but of rootedness. When empires came, Egyptian, Assyrian, Babylonian, Persian, Greek, Roman, each brought war, faith, and change. Yet somehow this land absorbed them all without losing itself. New rulers built temples, fortresses, and cities. But beneath the layers of empire, the local people, the farmers, artisans, and families remained tied to the same soil, the same sky, the same rhythm of prayer and harvest. It's easy to think of history as conquest, but in Palestine, continuity was the greater victory. Every invader who claimed permanence eventually faded. The people who stayed were the ones who bent but never broke. When Christianity took root, Palestinian communities became some of its earliest centers. Nazareth, Bethlehem, and Jerusalem turned into symbols of faith for the world. Yet they remained, at their heart, communities of ordinary families living with humility and purpose. Faith here was not abstract, it was woven into the earth itself. And when Islam arrived centuries later, the transformation was profound, but not erasure. It was adoption and evolution. Islam became not just a religion, but a framework of ethics, patience, and social harmony. In towns like Hebron and Nablus, mosques rose beside churches, testaments to a moral code that valued coexistence even under hardship. As centuries passed, the land changed hands again, from the Abbasids to the Crusaders, from the Ottomans to the British. Each empire promised order and brought turmoil. Each collapse left behind fragments, yet the people rebuilt again and again.
By the time the 20th century dawned, Palestine had already survived thousands of years of upheaval. But the greatest test was yet to come. The test not of armies, but of identity. Displacement, division, diaspora. It was here that the ancient moral fabric, patience, community, and faith would transform from custom into lifeline. To understand the Palestinian mindset today, you must see that it didn't appear overnight. It's not a reaction to modern events alone. It is the accumulation of millennia, a cultural DNA of endurance. Every generation inherited not just struggle, but wisdom, a belief that home is more than a place. It is the memory of belonging. In a world that often praises conquest, Palestine became a symbol of something quieter, deeper, and perhaps stronger, the morality of survival without surrender. Their story reminds us, sometimes the greatest power is not in the sword, but in the seed that keeps growing even when the ground is cracked. Every culture has its compass, a moral code that guides how people act, think, and endure. For Palestine, that compass is built on three unshakable pillars: faith, family, and Sumud. Moon, faith, as foundation. In Palestinian life, faith is not just religion, it's resilience in disguise. From the morning call to prayer echoing through Jerusalem's alleys, to the evening whispers of mothers praying for their sons, spirituality is not a ritual, it's a rhythm. It keeps time with the heart. When the world feels unstable, faith becomes the anchor. It teaches patience when circumstances demand anger, and dignity when despair tempts surrender. Islam and Christianity, both deeply rooted in this land, have shaped a people who view suffering not as punishment, but as a test, and compassion as victory. It's no coincidence that Palestinians often quote verses of the Quran or lines from the Bible when facing loss. For them, belief is not abstract theology. It's a way to stay human in inhuman conditions. It's a daily practice of hope. Faith creates balance. It reminds Palestinians that while injustice may be human, justice belongs to God, and therefore their duty is not vengeance, but perseverance. It is this quiet moral discipline that gives their resilience meaning. Bird, family, the unbreakable unit. In many places, modern life isolates individuals, but in Palestine, family is the fortress. It's where love, loyalty, and survival interlock. A Palestinian child grows up surrounded by generations, grandparents who still speak of the old villages, parents who work to provide under pressure, siblings who share everything, even dreams. When one person suffers, the entire family feels it. When one succeeds, everyone celebrates. This collective mentality fuels their strength. It's why, even under economic hardship or occupation, communities remain tightly woven. Every wedding, every funeral, every Ramadan meal, these are not just social events, they are acts of unity, reaffirming identity against fragmentation. To be Palestinian is to understand that your existence is communal. You are never alone, even when the world forgets you. Foliage, Sumud, the soul of the mindset. Then comes the word that defines them, Sumud, steadfastness. It's not resistance by force, but resistance by existence. It's the act of standing firm without losing morality, of rebuilding what's destroyed, of refusing to disappear. Sumud means staying on your land when it would be easier to leave. It means teaching your children history when books are banned. It means keeping the key to your old home, even if that home was reduced to dust. It's not loud, it doesn't demand attention, but it's unbreakable. The quiet power that keeps Palestine alive in every generation. A grandmother tending her olive tree on the West Bank. A student studying under candlelight in Gaza. A refugee teaching Arabic to her children in exile. Each act, no matter how small, is a form of Sumud. In a world obsessed with instant results, the Palestinians have mastered the art of patience, the understanding that moral victory often takes generations. Their mentality transforms hardship into heritage and loss into legacy. Faith gives them reason. Family gives them strength. Sumud gives them identity. Together, these three pillars form the moral architecture of the Palestinian soul, a structure no wall, weapon, or policy has ever been able to dismantle. Because when a people decide that dignity is worth more than comfort and humanity more than hatred, they become unstoppable, not in might, but in meaning. And perhaps that is Palestine's greatest victory of all. They've shown the world that even when freedom is limited, the human spirit can remain infinite. Pain, when it persists long enough, does one of two things. It either breaks a people or it builds them. For Palestinians, it has done the latter. Fire, forged in struggle. Every generation since 1948 has been shaped by a life defined by struggle, exile, occupation, displacement, and economic hardship. Yet, what might have destroyed others became the forge of resilience for Palestine. When homes were lost, they built memories stronger than walls. When freedom was denied, they found it in education, poetry, and prayer. When borders closed, they opened their minds to the world. This transformation is not just survival, it's evolution. It's the ability to endure without surrendering humanity. Sociologists call it collective trauma. Palestinians call it life. But within that pain lies a deep moral code: to endure injustice without becoming unjust. It's why Palestinian art, literature, and music rarely call for revenge. They call for recognition, dignity, and peace. Their mindset says, we will not disappear, we will not lose ourselves. And this moral refusal to break is what the world often underestimates. Bricks, from ruins to renewal. Walk through Gaza and you'll see destruction, but also rebuilding. Children playing beside rubble. Shops reopening days after airstrikes. Students walking to school with books in their arms, even when their classrooms no longer have roofs. This is not denial, it's defiance. A defiance rooted in moral optimism. To rebuild after destruction is to declare that life itself is an act of resistance.
Even in refugee camps, where space is cramped and hope is a luxury, Palestinians cultivate gardens, paint murals, and hold weddings. Joy in these moments becomes a protest. It says, you can limit our land, but not our life. Psychologists studying resilience often cite Palestinian communities as examples of post-traumatic growth, the capacity to not only recover from suffering, but to grow stronger because of it. They discovered that moral clarity, knowing who you are and what you stand for, acts as a shield against despair. And Palestinians have that clarity in abundance. Education of resistance. For many Palestinian families, education is not just a path to a job, it's a path to dignity. When opportunities are blocked, knowledge becomes the one thing no one can take away. Even during curfews or blockades, parents teach their children at home. Even in refugee camps, classrooms bloom in makeshift tents. Every lesson becomes a declaration. We will rise through knowledge. Palestine's literacy rate remains one of the highest in the Arab world, a statistic that defies its conditions, because education, in their eyes, is the purest form of moral resistance, a way to fight ignorance, injustice, and invisibility. Art, memory, and the moral imagination. Then there's art, the mirror of the Palestinian soul. In songs, murals, and films, they preserve memory like sacred fire. The embroidered dress of a grandmother, the poetry of Mahmoud Darwish, speaking of land and longing, the oud player whose music floats through the streets of Ramallah. Every piece of art is more than beauty. It's evidence. Evidence that identity cannot be erased. And in that art lives a profound moral imagination, the belief that storytelling is stronger than silence. It's why Palestinian culture continues to inspire movements for justice across the world, because people recognize something universal in it, the desire to be seen, to belong, to endure. Strength that inspires the world. Across continents, Palestinians have carried this resilience into every field, from academics to activism, from medicine to engineering. They've turned adversity into excellence. In Chile, Canada, the US, and beyond, the diaspora has become a voice of perseverance. They build businesses, teach in universities, and advocate for peace, not just for Palestine, but for all who suffer oppression. They have learned to transform personal pain into public purpose. That's not politics, that's principle. In the end, adversity didn't crush the Palestinian mindset. It refined it. It stripped away what was temporary
and revealed what was timeless: moral strength, rooted in dignity, empathy, and hope. To endure is not just to survive. To endure with grace, compassion, and moral clarity, that is a victory greater than any political one. And perhaps that is the lesson Palestine offers to humanity, that even in the harshest struggle, the soul can remain gentle, and that resilience built on morality will always outlast oppression. Amid hardship, Palestinians have mastered a remarkable skill. They turn suffering into purpose. In a land where obstacles are constant, hope becomes an art form, embedded in culture, music, storytelling, and laughter. Music and poetry as survival. Listen closely to the streets of Ramallah or the hills of Bethlehem, and you'll hear a language that carries memory, resistance, and hope. The strains of the oud, the rhythmic clapping in folk songs, the poetry of Mahmoud Darwish, all of it is more than entertainment. It is existence in defiance, a testimony that despite occupation, displacement, and uncertainty, life continues. Poetry in Palestine is not just literature, it is moral resistance. It teaches children that words matter, that memory matters, that history cannot be rewritten if it is sung, recited, and remembered. Songs of longing, of love, of homeland are passed quietly from generation to generation, often whispered in classrooms, courtyards, and refugee camps. Music and poetry transform grief into shared identity. They turn loss into collective endurance. They teach young Palestinians that the weight of history can be carried with grace, and that creativity can be as powerful as protest. Art, humor, and everyday resilience. Art in Palestine is everywhere. Murals on walls, graffiti on checkpoints, paintings in schoolrooms. Every stroke, every color tells a story. We were here, we remain, we hope. Humor, too, is a quiet weapon. In Gaza, in the West Bank, Palestinians laugh through hardship, finding light in darkness. They joke about long waits at checkpoints, about shortages, about the unpredictability of life. This is not frivolity. It is resilience. It is a moral choice to maintain humanity when circumstances try to rob it away. Even small acts, planting a tree, hosting a wedding, cooking a meal, carry symbolic weight. They are statements of life. We exist, we endure, we celebrate, we love. Traditions provide grounding. Families gather for Eid, Ramadan, Christmas, and weddings, moments when culture reinforces identity and strengthens community bonds. Old folk tales, embroidered dresses, ancient olive groves, and family recipes are more than heritage. They are tools of resilience. Every generation inherits not just land, but moral memory. Olive trees in particular are a symbol of Palestinian endurance. Some trees in villages date back hundreds of years, surviving drought, conflict, and occupation. To tend an olive tree is to claim life in defiance of destruction. To harvest its fruit is to assert continuity, a living metaphor for steadfastness. Education as a moral legacy. Palestinians see education as sacred. Even under blockade, conflict, or economic hardship, families prioritize schooling. Children learn not only academics, but history, culture, and identity. They are taught that knowledge is both armor and inheritance. In classrooms, every lesson is a declaration. We will rise through intellect, not force. Universities in Ramallah, Bethlehem, and Gaza produce some of the brightest minds in the Arab world. Palestinians abroad carry this intellectual and moral legacy into global arenas: medicine, engineering, science, diplomacy, all rooted in the Palestinian mindset of endurance and hope.
Hope as a collective force. Hope in Palestine is not naive optimism. It is strategic, shared, and disciplined. It is the understanding that moral strength can outlast armies, walls, and checkpoints. Hope becomes a collective force, a culture of expectation that even the smallest victories matter. The Palestinian mindset transforms hardship into purpose. To educate children is to protect identity. To create art is to claim humanity. To rebuild homes is to assert dignity. To remember is to resist invisibility. Through culture, creativity, and community, Palestinians live with a profound truth. Even when freedom is limited, hope is infinite. Even when power is denied, dignity cannot be stolen. Even when land is occupied, the mind remains sovereign. And perhaps this is the most remarkable lesson the Palestinian people offer to the world: that life lived with moral clarity, community, and hope is a victory in itself, one that no force can erase. As we stand today, looking across the hills, olive groves, and cities of Palestine, one truth becomes undeniable. The land is not the only thing that endures. Its people endure too, not just in body, but in spirit, in mind, in heart. The Palestinian mindset is not forged in comfort or prosperity. It is forged in loss, displacement, and the daily negotiation between hope and despair. And yet, somehow, it emerges not bitter, but wise, not defeated, but moral, not silent, but steadfast. Faith, family, and Sumud, these pillars have sustained generations. Faith teaches patience and moral clarity. Family provides strength, continuity, and shared purpose. Sumud transforms hardship into a declaration of life, dignity, and identity. Through adversity, Palestinians have built a culture of hope. They turn tragedy into poetry, ruin into art, displacement into education, and pain into resilience. They have learned that survival is not enough. To truly endure is to remain human, compassionate, and morally grounded no matter the circumstances. Perhaps this is the most profound lesson the Palestinian people offer to the world: that the human spirit, when anchored in moral clarity, cannot be erased. That dignity, hope, and community are more powerful than armies or walls. That adversity, when met with steadfastness and purpose, becomes a teacher rather than a destroyer. And in this lesson, there is universal wisdom. Every society, every individual faces trials. We may not all live under occupation, but we all face moments that test our patience, morality, and courage. The Palestinian mindset reminds us that true strength lies not in what is taken from us, but in what we choose to preserve: our values, our dignity, and our hope. Look at the children planting olive trees, the poets composing verses in exile, the students learning under the dim light of a candle, the elders teaching traditions to the next generation, and you see a nation thriving, not because it is unchallenged, but because it refuses to surrender morally. The world often measures power by conquest, wealth, or fame. But Palestine teaches us a different metric, the measure of resilience, moral courage, and the ability to hope in the face of impossibility. So what can we take from this story? Palestine's story isn't just about land or politics. It's about the strength of the human spirit, the power of hope, and the resilience that grows from faith, family, and moral conviction. Every act of endurance, every poem, every olive tree planted, every lesson taught, it's a reminder that even in the hardest circumstances, we can choose dignity, compassion, and perseverance. So now I want to hear from you. Which part of the Palestinian mindset inspires you the most? Is it their unwavering hope, their commitment to education, or their ability to turn struggle into purpose? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Let's start a conversation about resilience, courage, and moral strength. If this story moved you, hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss another video exploring the untold stories of human spirit and cultural strength. Remember, resilience isn't just surviving, it's thriving with hope, values, and courage. And together, we can learn from these stories to build a stronger, more compassionate world.